Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
So it's a great pleasure to introduce Avi Dubey here. This is an end of internship talk. And so let me give a little bit of background of what Avi has been up to before coming to Microsoft and what he's doing actually when he's not here. So Avi is a PhD student in the machine learning department at Carnegie Mellon, working with Professor Eric Xing. His interests include statistical machine learning, information retrieval, clustering, and before that he worked as a researcher for 2 years at IBM Research India. And before that, he did his master's in CS at the IIT Bombay, working with Professor Suman Chakrabarty. And so with Rich, we thought that, and he's published already papers, he also has a patent. So with all that, with Rich, we thought, well, clearly, Avi is going to do great research. Everything says that in his resume. So let's give him even a harder challenge. And so we said, not only are you going to do research, but actually you're going to make it fully reproducible on a platform that is being developed. And so that's some of the challenges that Avi had to do. And I must say that he was up to it. And we'll hear more about it now, the research and reproducibility.
Thank you. So that was a great introduction. So I'm working on reproducible research on CodaLab. And so before I go into it, let's spend a slide on what CodaLab is. CodaLab is an open source platform, and this is my perspective, by the way. And you can download it from GitHub. You can even go to codalab.org and see all about it, which has two facets. One of them is to host challenges, and currently there are machine learning and medical imaging tasks challenges that have been that are already there, and that facet is called competitions. And the other facet is on replicating and reproducible research, and if you go on the site, you'll have a banner saying coming soon. So that is what is the worksheet. And this I've taken directly from the site, and it says that worksheets can be used to publish executable papers or as a personal research log. And you can do this because worksheets are a way of integrating both text and experiments. And in experiments, I mean you can upload your data, your program, run them, have the result, and talk about it. And my internship was as to prove this concept that it can be used to replicate results. And it can not just be used to replicate results from papers. You can, because the principles carry, you can also have tutorials on it, on some on topics. And of course, you can use it as a personal research log. So with these three things in perspective, I go to the next slide, which, by the way, acts as two things. A, this will be a roadmap of what I'll be talking of. And B, this will also act as a summary of the research work that I have done. So what is it? The first column are a set of tasks, and the crosses just represent which of the three things that we were talking about, replicability, tutorial, and research, will I be doing in it. So let's go into one of them, machine comprehension. As the name implies, machine comprehension is how well a machine is able to understand text. And it uses multiple techniques from multiple disciplines like information extraction, information retrieval, relation extraction, semantic parsing, and so on. The list goes on. Before this paper in 2013, most of the research work on machine comprehension was focused on a particular small task of whether it will be in information retrieval or in parsing. Because there was lack of openly available data which can be used for doing machine comprehension. And the way that the authors defined machine comprehension was, if you are given a passage, if a machine is given a passage, can the machine then answer question based on those passage? And that is what this paper by Matthew and Matthew and Christoph was about. So going a bit more into the data, because the main aim of this paper was to release a data set for that challenge. This is an example of, on the right, is the example of a story. It's a story about a turtle who is always creating trouble. And then you are asked a set of questions. The questions can be very simple, as what was the name of the turtle? And the answer is right in the first line itself. But finding that answer, you might have to use some kind of information retrieval, just plain similarity-based measures, or you might even use some kind of crazy NLP tools. The second question is also, what did he pull off in the grocery store? And I've just highlighted the area that in the passage that is needed to answer that question. So again, the main focus of the paper was to release the data, but they also gave two very simple baseline. It's simple in the sense it looks simple, but if you try to beat it, it's a bit difficult. And some people are laughing because they know that. So one of them is a sliding is where you take a sliding window across the passage, and just find for each answer what is the maximum similarity of the sliding window for the question with that particular answer. So one of the ways of doing it is you can, given the question and one of the answer, you can, using rules, predict what the answer sentence would look like, and then find whether that sentence occurs in the passage or not. They gave another baseline where from the output of the first algorithm, you just subtract what is the minimum distance between a query word and an answer word. So, and this would help if it would help if the answer word is concentrated where the query is. And so I reproduced the algorithm and the results, and we have nearly the same numbers as they had in the paper, with a small difference. Next, I would like to show how we do this on CodaLab. So to do this on CodaLab, first and foremost, if you're starting from scratch, you'll have to download it from GitHub and then install virtual environment if it is already not there on pip. And then the steps are very simple. These are exactly the set of steps that you need to do, nothing more. After that, and I have already done this, so to see whether everything is working or not, you can just type CL, and it will show you a bunch of commands that you can use with CL. And CL stands for CodaLab, it's a short form. If you want to see what are the worksheets which are already there, you can just say WLS, and it shows me that I have worksheets corresponding to the things that I was showing you in the tasks. Okay, so let's create a new worksheet, CL new, say MC test presentation, particularly for the presentation. If you do CLLS, so let me explain a bit more about CodaLab here. CodaLab, you can put in text, and the remaining things like data, like your code, and the commands to execute those code comes in as bundles. You can think of bundles as just folders, and where your data or your code or the run command is saved. So currently, if you do CLLS, as it showed, it is empty because you have not uploaded any kind of data, program, or anything. So let's add. I've written down already the set of steps that I would like to add. So let me show you how the worksheet would actually look like. So this is I've SSH'd in remote desktop into Azure Linux, and it's not very well calibrated, so I have to be. Okay, so this is the worksheet that I just created, MC test underscore presentation, and as you can see, there's nothing in it currently. Now I add message. So the command is cl add -m. I just add this message, and of course it will reappear here. Okay. Now you can add all the text, and very soon it will support LaTeX. So you can even add LaTeX to explain, and we'll do the same. So we'll add messages that will explain what I just said. And if you refresh this, you will have all the things in. So now we can add. Now we are free to add in the data. And if you do an ls here, we'll see that the data is already there. I'm sorry for the font. It's mctest_data. And the command to upload the data set is just CL upload dataset. So as I told you that there are 3 different types of bundles. CL upload would upload a bundle. Then you'll have to give the type of bundle, whether it's a dataset, whether it's a program, or whether it is a run executable command. If you do CLLS, it will show you that this is a dataset type bundle which has been added. You can similarly add, and by the way, all this that I'm adding, you can. I didn't want you to do a refresh again and again, but hold on. Yep. So if you add it, and I added it with a description of what the dataset contains, so this will also contain the description of the dataset. You can add. You can now upload the program. So this is the metadata associated with the program. You can give a name. You can also give it tags, license, source URL, and other bunch of other stuff. I'm happy with whatever it is, so I will just continue. So again, if you do CLLS, you'll see that you have the dataset now and you have the program now. So your program has been inputted, is in, but you have not given it command to how to run it, and that is the next bundle, which is just CL run program name. So if you do CLLS, you'll see that. Well, it's hard to see here. Hold on. So if you see the last line, till now we had ready, and now it is created. The D has come here. I'm sorry about that. So it's the run command. You have given the run command, but it has not run yet. It is just that this command is created. That is what that status says. And the reason is, in CodaLab, there is a background server worker that keeps on running. And when it is running, it would have directly executed this. But since I have not run anything in the background, I will have to do CL worker. And this will run this particular run command. So now you can see it says it is ready. And after this, I have to interrupt it because it goes into a sleep mode until a new run commands are added. Okay. Now, if you're wondering what happened to what we were looking at, well, so we have now the empty test program as well as the MC test run. Okay. If you thought that, oh, I forgot to add something, some text previously, so you can do wEdit. W stands for, again, editing the worksheet. And here you will see all the text associated that you have added. And here you can directly add whatever you want to add. Like, I might want to give the instruction to add I would like to give the instructions to run the program before running the actual program, so that people who see this file are actually able to run it. So you can add whatever you want, and it will be reflected here. One thing that I'm not able to show you right now because the bundle service is there is some problem with the bundle service, is I can show you in the command line. If you look at, so if you look at inside a bundle which has already run, and give the -v option for verbose, you can actually see what the standard error was, what the standard out was, and as I told you, it stores it as a folder. There is a folder corresponding to the data hash, which you can find, and you can see all the run outputs there itself. Okay, that's a quick short demo of how to do it on CodaLab. So this is what I cannot show you, that very soon you will have this, probably in a day, that you can click, you can look at the bundles and what is there within the bundle in the website itself, and then you can look at standard error, or you can look at images that your file might create, and so on. Okay. Okay. So. If you remember, we also had the research aspect to the machine comprehension test, and this is something that I'm doing with Minmay, who is another intern here, and he's the lead on this, and along with Matthew Richardson. The central idea is and this is known, that you can for question answering system you can always improve the accuracy by using information retrieval techniques. But can we do something better or something smarter than just using plain simple information retrieval? Like we looked at how we can incorporate rhetorical structure theory, which basically a one-line simple explanation would be probably a naive one, is that if you have two sentences, RST parser would give you a link such as explains that, or causes, such as sentence 1 is caused by sentence 2. And if the question itself is what causes something which is in sentence 2, then you can follow it backward and answer the question. So that was the roughly the idea behind using rhetorical structure theory. And the third one, which is multitask learning, this is something that we started thinking about like 2 weeks ago. And there the idea is that we can think of different types of questions as a different task. Like if you're trying to answer when, it's a time-related question. So this is a different task as opposed to when you're trying to answer a question about what or why. And we are making some progress, and and Minmay will probably talk about it more when he presents. Okay, so we have talked about replicability, and I've already shown you how to use CodaLab Worksheet. Now, what I didn't talk about was factored or fast LMM, which is factored spectrally transformed linear mixed model. And the reason it's the principle is the same, that we explain what it is and in the worksheet, and then upload the code, the data, and run it. So, as we mentioned previously, we also want to put in tutorial in CodaLab, and that is where I will try to explain calibration. Okay, so people familiar with machine learning would know this, that most classifiers tries to optimize for prediction error. By optimize, I mean minimized prediction error. So in trying to do so, it becomes very good in getting the ordering right. By getting the ordering right, I mean if it is trying to predict, if you are using it to try to predict the probability, or in a binary classification, for example, then it will, if an example belongs to positive class, all it will try to do is make the probability that the example belongs to a positive class more than the probability that it belongs to the negative class. As long as that happens, prediction accuracy wise, golden. But sometimes you might not just need classification. As for example, if the classifier is being used in a pipeline, and later down the line you want to know what is the actual probability of this data belonging to a particular class, and that is where calibration comes in. So calibration is a procedure to produce posterior probability of classes after classification. And from CodaLab's worksheet perspective, we want to make an introductory tutorial for calibration on the worksheet. There are a lot of papers on calibration, starting from Platt's paper in 1999. And I've listed a few here. It's not a complete list. Let me say that outright, because there are a lot of other papers that I have not cited here. Okay, so let's look at it in a bit more detail. So for calibration perspective, all the slides on calibration on the x-axis will have scores provided by the classifier. So we are assuming, it can be probabilities also, but we are just assuming that these are scores provided by classifiers. And if you now plot, in this case, you are just binning for a two-class classification problem, the negative class and the positive class, and you're just showing the bin output. Okay. There are multiple things that you can see right here. As you go along this, as you have increasing score, your preference for one class increases above the other, right? And B, this is not a perfect Gaussian, so you cannot just fit a Gaussian here and solve the problem. Okay. By the way, these two, both of these two images are from John Platt's paper. So what you can do is you can bin it. So by binning, I mean, think about score from -2 to say -1.5. And look at all the examples that have that particular score and see the fraction of, say, the positive class in it. Okay? And that is the plus marks on the right-hand figure. So as you can see clearly that this looks like a sigmoid. And hence John Platt suggested that we will fit a sigmoid on top of the scores to get to the probability. And this is something called Platt scaling. And here on the right, again, we have reproduced the same result. On the left, you will see some more information. By more information, I mean that the green ones are actual examples. So instead of -1 and +1, I have made them 0 and 1 to fit in the same picture. And what you cannot see is the generating probability. So how did we generate the data? Well, we sampled something uniformly between -5 and +5 that acted as your score, okay? And then from generating probability, which you cannot see, you get the probability of it belonging to the positive class, and then that probability is used to sample whether you get a particular class, 0 or 1. So it's not that important for this case, because you see Platt scaling directly fits it. But what if you have some function which is like a ramp or a staircase? So again, the blue one is the generating probability, and the red is how good a fit it is. So for the ramp, you can see that Platt scaling is doing what it can best do. Of course, there will be some gaps, but it's pretty much capturing it. But if it is a staircase, it's a pathological case. But if it's a staircase, then it fails. An important point to note here is we have not deviated from this picture, where as you increase along the x-axis, which is your score, the probability of belonging to +1 class is more than belonging to the -1 class. And this is the idea behind isotonic regression. So basically, you fit a monotonically non-decreasing function, and this is what happens. So of course, there are jumps because of a number of other reasons, but these jumps will become smaller and smaller as you have more data. And it is much closer to the actual line for the staircase case than fitting a sigmoid. Now, there are various points to mention here. This is a non-parametric method, hence requires more data than Platt scaling. Here you are just fitting a sigmoid, and fitting a sigmoid is a two variable. You have to just find two variables. And finding two variables, you don't need much data as opposed to isotonic regression. And B, if you're thinking that, hold on, I can solve this using function-to-function regression. Using a single one-dimensional regression problem. You have a score and you want to predict probability. You can do it, and you can use non-parametric methods to do it. But The only thing that that is isotonic regression is doing more than that, than just using regression, is that it is suggesting that we use monotonically non-decreasing function, because that is the property of some classifiers. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Cool. So we talked about calibration, and we have put it in as a tutorial. And the reason I'm not showing you the demo here is the principle is the same. I describe an algorithm and then update the data, upload the data, upload the code, and run it and show you the output. The outputs, these are exactly the same outputs. I have taken it from there, that you will see there. The second point I would like to mention is that generalized additive models, we also have a tutorial for generalized additive models, but again, so for the point of view of pushing CodaLab Worksheet, I just want to mention it because this is the work that I've done here, but from the point of view of understanding CodaLab Worksheet, it will not help for this presentation. Next, I would like to delve into the research work that I'm doing with Rich, and it's called Multi-Level Sparse Intelligible Model for Multitask Regression. And I'm sorry, the title is big, and I'll try to break it into parts and explain you what each part means. So, but from CodaLab Worksheet perspective, this is to use CodaLab Worksheet as a personal diary for a researcher. And this is a work in progress. We have some preliminary results that I will show you, and we'll see. Okay, so what is multitask regression? First and foremost, I hope people here know regression. It's just a way in which you are given an input X, suppose, the simplest way of understanding it, and you have an output or a regressor or a predictor that you want to predict, say Y, and you want a transformation or a function that will take in this input X and give you this output Y. But often it might happen that data for a particular task that you have gathered is limited. An example might be that suppose you are looking at, you are trying to predict, say, the height of some particular variant of dinosaurs. And you have collected data, say, in Argentina, and some other researcher was trying to predict the weight of the dinosaurs in some other part, say in Brazil, for example, and they have taken data for weight. Individually, they might have very few dinosaurs data available to them, but they might want to pool the data together so as to help both the two tasks of predicting the height as well as the weight. And this is multitask regression. Rich can tell you all about it if you want to go to him. He started it in 90s. So the next part of the title that I want to explain is intelligible models. Now, among regression, the simplest model that you can think of is linear regression, because you're taking their f is just a linear weight, or you're just applying linear weights to the features and summing them up. And if you plot the accuracy of that, it sits somewhere here, but somewhere here related to what? Suppose you have a very complicated model that takes in such as you take a very complicated kernel as apply it as an SVM, that might give you an accuracy which I'm denoting by the last one here, RF, real basis function or something like that. Now, as the accuracy increases, there is one problem though. That if you try to explain the kernel to someone who is not familiar with machine learning or who is not a statistician, it might be a problem. So intelligible models are models where you try to increase the accuracy as much as possible while still staying in the domain where you can explain it to any particular individual easily. And when you think about what are things that can be explained easily, if you have functions on a single dimension, you can easily explain it to any individual, right? You can just show the function in 2D and explain it. If you have function in 2D on 2 dimensions, so the function is actually in 3D, you can still show it into individuals and people will still be able to recognize it. Beyond that, physicists and machine mathematicians will recognize it, but not every individual. So those are the functions. Those are the functional domains in which intelligible models stay. So for example, JAM, which is generalized additive model, which we had a tutorial on in CodaLab Worksheet, is just where you take individual features, reshape it, and sum them. That's your predictor. And GA2M, which is basically capturing the pairwise interaction also, as opposed to just single feature interaction. And what this was work which started with Rich and his intern Yen, 2012 or 11, and it went into his thesis, completely into his thesis, and they found that by just using a single dimension functions, which is very easy to understand, they can get to about 50% of the difference in accuracy between linear regression and RF. And by using this pairwise interaction, they could go to 90%. And that's quite good because you're still staying in a domain where you can look at it and understand while you have reached a good accuracy number. My work is to use intelligible models in solving multitask learning so that one task helps another. Okay. So that brings me to the summary that CodaLab Worksheets, and again, so all the things that I have done is on the worksheet. So again, so worksheet can be used while you're doing research. You can run experiment and see which failed, why it failed, and you can even write it down. That will help you also in future. So CodaLab Worksheet can be used to upload code, data for publications. It can be used for tutorials. It can be used for researchers' bookkeeping. Another interesting thing that it can be used for is, and this PhD students will agree, that when you are submitting homeworks, you get the same principle. You submit an answer, you have a program, you upload the program, you run it on the data and show the results. Okay, thank you. Yep.
I'm curious why, maybe this is talk about why the decision was made not to go with a fully GUI interface. You've got this command line thing, you don't know all these commands and their options, as opposed to a OneNote-like kind of thing. So
I think that's more of a CodaLab question than exactly. Yeah. So we did some surveying just to see what people actually in your area liked, and what came back is like both. So like there are some points in the cycle of doing the research, the development of the research, where command line is much better than having this interface, because to support everything and make it really smooth, and that's not the way the researchers want.
But you could have a command line as one of the little windows in OneNote, and you could actually add texts directly instead of having to enter it from command line.
Right, and by the way, so this is still in development, and then ultimately it will be also possible to actually work directly, enter text, the website, but we are not there yet. So kind of between the two, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Is there a social aspect to it? Like if I have a program and data, I can share it with you?
Yes. So the thing that I didn't mention because I was not working on it, is that, so one of the aspects of worksheet is, after you have published a paper and someone asks you for the code, you can just share the code bundle and also the run bundle, because that will give them the environment in which you ran it and what the result you get.
This is wondering about the run bundle. Like, if I want to run someone's code, do I need to download all the libraries they need or used, or?
So yes. So there are. If you want to rerun, yes, you need. But if someone makes sure that in the environment, like of course some of the packages you might have to install it and they can mention it, but some of the other variables can be set in the environment within the bundle itself. So you can set some of the variables while running itself.
Yeah, I want to emphasize that, like all the work Kadie has done, where first when we started the internship, we said, let's put 1, 2, 3, and 3 was kind of a stretch goal, 3 worksheets, and actually managed to do 5. But CodaLab is still being developed, so.
And question about the CodaLab stuff. So suppose you make your worksheet available to me. You've done a full set of experiments, developed code, test data, and all that sort of thing. And then let's say I want to change just some piece of code in the middle. I want to run some other piece of code, a new way of doing calibration or something like that. But I still want to do everything you did to check the calibration beforehand and then to measure the quality of the calibration afterwards and maybe compare on this new data set to the other 2 methods. Can I sort of easily insert my new piece of code?
Yes.
Still run your stuff and then compare all of them somehow? Or once I fork to a different thread, is it hard for me to get back onto your path that you originally had?
So it started off as the bundle being static. Like after the run has results is out, like you cannot change it. But now there are certain functions that have just been added, like 2 weeks ago, a week ago, which is like mimic, which basically does what you're saying. So it will mimic that on a new data or on a new setup. It will just mimic without doing any change. So yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's thank Abby again.